So now we have George Drakopoulos, who is the founder and CEO of Tourism Generis, who will be joining us online to deliver his presentation on challenging carrying capacity in island destinations, the case of Santorini. This question of the carrying capacity of islands is a debate that is very much widespread, and obviously it creates positive and negative reactions. But we'd like to hear now George Drakopoulos.
The floor is yours.
Okay. I'd like to remind you, George, that you've got 12 minutes. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. First of all, I would like to thank you, INSULEUR, for your kind invitation. It's really an honor to address such a distinguished audience. In the next few minutes, I will try to share some thoughts about an issue which is more and more frequently appears on the agenda of the public dialogue about tourism, economy, and society. It is the issue of over-tourism, which is directly related with overcapacity. Can I have the slides, or can I upload my presentation from my laptop?
It will be easier if you upload.
Okay, thank you. Just give me a second, please. Allow me to do this, please. Thank you.
Okay.
Fantastic.
That's fine.
So in the next few minutes, I will start with some definition and traditional approaches about how to measure carrying capacity. Then I will highlight the need for more new variables. And using the Santorini case, I would suggest some policy measures and some recommendations. So what is the carrying capacity definition? Is the maximum number of people that visit a tourist destination at the same time without causing destruction of physical, economic, socio-cultural environment. But at the same time, we have to respect the visitor satisfaction. This definition needs some clarifications. First of all, while we all agree about the need to protect the physical, economic, and social cultural environment, we do not agree how to approach and how to measure it, and we do not use the same indices. However, the biggest problem is how do we define the maximum number of people it either may visit or may be present. I think we must use the maximum number, we must define the maximum number as the sum of tourists, the day visitors, the resident population, plus imported labor. This last variable, it is very important for the islands and something we usually forget to calculate. Why happens that? When we operate within the carrying capacity limits, tourists, visitors, and host communities are happy. The quality of the tourists are okay and the living standards are respected. However, when we go beyond the limits, the quality of the tourist experience goes down and of course the living standards go down, which means we must find a way to operate within the carrying capacity limit. The traditional approaches for measuring carrying capacity, which have been adopted by United Nations Tourism, World Travel and Tourist Council, and the Eurostat, use two variables, tourism density and tourism intensity. It is a very limited number of people who feel very comfortable with these variables. These variables are defined by the use of arrivals per square kilometer, the population, overnights, again population, but I bet very few people can understand this, even though the tourism function index, which is a very popular metric, correlates the number of beds in the population and arises the question, when we relate both arrivals and overnights with the population, it means that the higher the number of people on an island, the higher the number of arrivals and overnights would be. And if we relate this with the regional development policies, when we need to keep people on the islands or invite more people as permanent residents, that means that we have a higher number of population, which means we invite more arrivals and more overnights. In this case, we totally forget about the physical environment. Physical environment, let's relate the beds with the surface, which could be a good approach. However, instead of the beds, I suggest to use the built area. In small islands like Santorini, most of the hotel, most of the accommodation businesses offer only rooms. But if you go to other islands like Rhodes, like Corfu, there are hotels, again, they offer rooms, but these guys, they offer also big swimming pools, They have huge conference centers. They have tennis courts and basketball courts. So it is the built area that counts and not only the number of beds. What are the new variables? Imported labor. Santorini has a population between 15 and 25 residents, but they have at least a minimum of 8,000 people as imported labor for at least 6 months. Then we have the day visitors. Day visitors do not appear in the statistics of the tourism density and intensity. At maritime destinations, we have ferries and cruises bringing thousands of people every day. And at mainland destinations, trains, coaches, and private cars. And these are people who are not counted within the tourism density and intensity variables. So we need to introduce an overnight equivalent which is produced by the day visitors. The least difficult way is to correlate the average expenditure of tourists with the average expenditure of day visitors. It is almost impossible to follow the visitors' flows to see how much they contribute to the traffic jams, how much litter and rubbish they produce, how much take from the networks. So relating the average expenditure will give us a good idea and we can convert it to equivalent overnight. Now, if we use some figures for Santorini, arrivals gives a tourism density of 43 or 119, or if we relate it with beds, 816. What does it mean? Is it the right number? Is it a lot? Is it a big? It's always something relevant, depends on where you compare it. The benchmarking has many degrees of freedom and cannot give you a good idea, a good conclusion. The same happens with the tourism intensity. These numbers almost say nothing for international benchmarking system because they do not care, they do not take under consideration the specific problems of specific islands. However, if we use the overnight equivalent and we take under consideration the air and ship arrivals, these figures are again from Santorini, and then we create the cruise passengers equivalent, we have more than 1 million passengers, which can easily produce the equivalent of 230 overnight. The daily fare equivalents, which gives us a subtotal, where the imported labor also produces overnights, contributes to the traffic jam, it takes the networks, and the resident population, then the total overnights of the island is more than 19 million, while previously they have been calculated only to 9 million. So I propose to put on the dialogue the introduction of overnight equivalent. Doing this exercise in Santorini, we can easily see that during the tourist season, between May and October, we have a minimum of 56,000 and a maximum of 93,000 people at the same time, same day on the island, which is a huge number. And obviously, those figures are not distributed evenly on the island. They mostly concentrate in the nicest areas, which is the case in all islands. Many people argue that there is no problem of over-tourism, but it's a matter of infrastructure. So this is Santorini with a road network, which looks more or less like this. Do we need more infrastructure? Do we need to make the islands like that? It is an important question, I think. And if you want to manage the flows, you have to measure. I say that it should be a minimum of 10 types of surveys on monthly and annual basis. In Santorini happens only 2 of them and not in a very consistent way. We all argue that tourism contributes to the balanced regional development. This is the map of Greece, where 79% of beds and 90% of the receipts are calculated within 5 out of 13 regions. It's not exactly a balanced development, and this is a ring that bells for the future. So beyond infrastructure, regional development and measurement, which requires some time and some commitment, the easy solution is the taxation. Environmental tax, sustainability tax, well-being tax, make you look younger tax, whatever. It is a crime introducing a tax before presenting a detailed plan. How are you going to use this money? But this is the easy solution for most of the governments. Concluding, I say the current capacity is more than number. We need more and new variables. We need a consistent measurement and monitoring, And all these have to lead us to policy actions, but these policy actions should originate from the small areas, small tourist destinations, small islands. On country level, governments used to round up things which disappear small problems. But mostly we need a new attitude, a new culture towards carrying capacity and over tourism. So regions, municipalities, businesses, governments, and civil society, they need to take more vitamin C. Vitamin C, yes, C like collaboration, cooperation, and coordination. Thank you very much for your attention. This is my email if you need some answers to, if you have any questions to my presentation. Thank you again.
Thank you very much, Georgios. This was a very interesting presentation. Again, it should lead to a debate.